Hey, good evening and welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL Live Before Lock. Patriots at home hosting the New York Giants. Should be a fun game. Maybe, who knows? I mean, most people may look at this Spags and say, who would possibly want to watch this game? But they may have thought the same thing about the Broncos and the Commanders last night. That was me. I fell asleep at like second quarter. I said, it's been a long weekend, a lot of food. A lot of stuff. I'm going to sleep. I woke up. I see it was an overtime win. The Giants, look, man, no team is greater at snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. But if nothing else, they keep things competitive. Almost all, like, they've lost 2 overtime games. They lost a game to the Broncos where they gave up, 33 in the fourth quarter, or 30 in the fourth. They lost the game late to the Bears. They beat the Eagles and the Chargers. So this has been one of the stranger teams we've seen all year. And oddly enough, and I'm not saying it happens again today, but they have kept things kind of close most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely been a feisty team. I'm curious to see how things kind of get impacted by a lot of reports floating around about Jackson Dart, teammates saying to the media, I think off the record, that he might not have a single designed run today. There was a big ESPN article I was reading this morning about the Jackson Dart, I guess, fall apart of his approach and how, some stuff that I saw visually and actually mentioned on stream before of him, fighting a little bit too often for extra yards, stuff like that. Some QBs, a lot of the best rushing QBs, take hits in a way where you kind of slide off the hit a little bit. I think Jalen Hurts is the best example of that, but, Lamar does it kind of similarly. Even Jaden Daniels takes some cartoonish hits. He does kind of, move with the hit a little bit more in ways that maybe not so much this year, but in general have not led to him being hurt. For Jackson Dart, now you lose a big part of his game where he's running 7 times a game. And if that's not there, I don't know if he's ready for prime time as a passer the same way that Jameis was. So I'm curious to see how this game works out. Curious to see how the field owns these guys too, because I think Jackson Dart's going to get played like we're in the days of yore, and I'm not sure we're in those days anymore.
Yeah, I will say, I don't know if that guy's ever going to stop running. Like maybe they won't have designed runs as much. And maybe you're right. Like maybe we just don't see any of that. But you take away an element of his game that makes his game. It's tough to say, because do you want him initiating contact and just like lowering his shoulder and taking monster hits? No, of course not. I said it this morning, like the only guy I trust to do that is Josh Allen, maybe Cam Newton too when he was in the game. But most guys aren't equipped to do that. And Dart's not small either. He's like 6'2", 220 or something. He's not small. But it's hard for me to believe that he doesn't still run, whether he gets down earlier, whether he gets out of bounds. All of that is yet to be seen. But I do agree with you on this. It is a total unknown. Like if this were pre-concussion, you'd know Dart was just, running headfirst into CTE. But his prop line is still anywhere between 25 to 30 in rushing yards today. So it's not nothing.
No, I mean, so apparently at practice, the team was like yelling at him, like slide, it's like a thing.
So he just hasn't figured it out yet.
Yeah. So it's like a really, I think, a point of curiosity. So part of the thing too, is that he's been tested for 4 concussions in 8 games. So like, it's
not good.
We're in, to a territory where even if he does run, I think he's got to pull up a little bit, and they were saying too in the article where it's like, well, if you get the first down, like pull up then, like slide then or whatever, like trying to find a compromise point. I think Jameis had a quote in there that was like, yeah, don't run into linebackers or run into linemen. But if you want to go against a safety, a corner, like you go for that. So it's kind of no man's land, really. I think the total seems a little bit high for the Giants, so maybe it is going to work out better for him. And he was a good passer at Ole Miss, definitely ran with some reckless abandon there too. But he was like, more traditional pocket passer a lot of the time. It definitely can work out well, but I just don't think like Wan'Dale Robinson is like mega chalky coming up everywhere to me. And I worry that he's just not in the same situation he was with Jameis last week, where he's getting peppered, looked the best he has in his career. We've seen that glow up happen. I just don't think that glow up happens the same way with Jackson Dart, but who knows?
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess this should be a fun show between the two of us, because with Wan'Dale, who else are you going to if you decide to go away from Wan'Dale? Now, we'll say, if there's one thing about this team right now, and we've seen it over the last 2 weeks, it's that Mike Kafka is very willing to run the football. And I know those were like pretty neutral game scripts. 38 and 39 rushing attempts in those two games. Like if you look at Tyrone Tracy and go, wow, he had 47 opportunities, rushing attempts plus targets the last 2 weeks. Singletary must not have had anything, right? Like there's no way if Tyrone Tracy got that much work that Singletary could have been in the mix whatsoever. He's had 31 looks over the last 2 games. Like those are crazy numbers for an RB1 and an RB2. I don't know if it happens today. And you know what, Spags? Here's the truth. If they fall behind early 2 touchdowns, all of that could go out the window because they had a lead most of the game against Detroit. But there is something to be said about the fact that this team has been very willing to run the ball the last 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the first game that Jameis had, I mean, they had to come a little more aggressively last time out against Detroit because you're playing Detroit. They have to put up points. And maybe, frankly, how good New England's been this year, you can make the case that you kind of have to put the pedal to the metal a little bit more and just a little bit more pass rate. But that first game, it was like Jameis was the most reserved version of Jameis you have. It was almost like, this is to quote the great Hassan Piker, it's like a dog with a shock collar. It was like one of those things where it's like he was like really skittish about trying to get outside the pocket, do anything outside the system, just kind of handed the ball off a little bit. And I think it almost seemed like they had like a button on him where it's like, okay, if you do any bad Jameis stuff, you're going to get benched. Game 2 against Detroit kind of came out a little bit looser, but they still ran the ball a good amount, like Lofty mentioned. So I think they would be happy to run the ball if they can, and if they're in a game script where that would allow it. But I think to me, really the big thing is if you don't play Wandale, I think you're looking at more of a Patriots 5-1 kind of build. And what jumped out to me projection-wise is that, like, I think you're getting more balanced builds today. So, normally I would say the narrative is probably that the Patriots put down a beating. But I think with how the projections look, you're getting more balanced stuff. So I did commit a little bit more to some heavy Patriot stuff and just hoping that the Giants don't really come together and they're this new version of Jackson Dart I think we're going to see.
The great Hassan Piker, huh?
I just had to make a dog shot collar joke, and I didn't know really to go with that.
Yeah, he got beat up pretty bad online for what was he shocking his dog like on stream or something?
It was believed that he was, but there wasn't really proof of it. So it was also like a campaign against him because there's a lot of streamers that are mad at him for his political beliefs / the views he had, I think. But yeah, that was one of those things where you don't want to get caught shocking a dog on camera.
Yeah, what a world we're in where you're either a Hassan guy or you're a Fuentes guy.
It's 2 greats on both sides of the equation.
Now nobody can get mad at you.
Yeah, that's good. You're really covered for me. Let's offend everybody.
I got you, man. But anyway, yeah. Look, if I do think there's a situation though where with Wandale, like it could be Theo Johnson, but who else do they have? I mean, what is the real difference between Jameis and Jackson Dart? Like if it's a negative game script.
I mean, I think there's going to be more, and this might sound crazy, but I think with what we saw of Jameis, and it's small sample size, but he was really refined in his approach, very accurate in his approach, did not fall to pieces under pressure. And maybe, if you play it the entire season, you would get back to old Jameis, what happened last year with the Browns, where he starts hot, everybody's like, Jameis, and then you see why, he's a backup for that team. I think with this year, though, I don't know, Dart's accuracy to me is league average at best. 79% catchable ball rate. It's okay, but could be better. Under pressure, negative 0.7 EPA there. He also just doesn't run stuff like play action well, which the team wants to do. Did well under Jameis, but overall in the year, Dart's got a negative 0.4 EPA on those plays. It's like a lot of the stuff that's, I think, easy for Jameis is not easy for Jackson Dart. So I think it's possible to me we just see, this is like certainly a contrarian bet, I think, but I think we might just see like floor game from everything, at least passing offense wise. I don't know. I'm just not sold by Dart as a passer so far. Has really been the biggest thing for me because I liked him a lot coming out of Ole Miss, and I just haven't seen it in the numbers so far that he's like actually good at throwing the ball as opposed to just running.
That's fair enough. Yeah, I mean, look, his passing prop is like 202. It's not great. He's been all over the map though. He had a 283, a 242. Couple ugly games. I mean, the game against Denver was excellent. Like if you got that game against Denver tonight, anybody rostering Jackson Dart is going to be thrilled about it. If you got the game against the Eagles, you're not going to be quite as happy, although he did rush for a touchdown and had a rushing touchdown in 5 straight games. What is his, I'm going to pull the Sims up. I already ran them, but I'm curious, what is his rushing prop? What is his touchdown prop today? Plus 260 on FanDuel. That would have been Yeah, those would have been significantly shorter odds, Spags, in the event that he wasn't concussed. He essentially has the same odds to score as Drake May.
Yeah, I mean, he was running 1.6 times per game, or actually 1.9 times per game in the red zone. For comparison, Drake May running 1.1. Drake May has this rep as like a big running QB. I think people think he's Josh Allen, but he made a business decision to stop running. I think his like last year of college for sure. But the second last year of college, like he was running a lot. Then it kind of went off the deep end a little bit in terms of not running as much. I think they're probably going to run similar amounts today, and at least for Drake May, we know like he's not in Tua territory where one more concussion could be like changing his career. But yeah, the odds kind of speak for Dart, I think, with the lack of any time TD juice.
All right, so let's pull up the Sims, see where we're at here. I got 3 uniques favored right now. I'm gonna actually go out of that. And the reason I'm gonna do that is just because when I do this, it's gonna smooth exposure out a lot, and that's okay. But I want to get a better idea of where the Sims would be if we just favored 150 here. And at captain, you are going to get Jackson Dart, a lot of him, Tyrone Tracy, Drake May, Trevion Henderson. You know what my hot take was from earlier today, Spags? It was, and there's the Sims. I'll zoom in for you guys a little bit. That we shouldn't be sleeping on Ramondre Stevenson today.
I like that take. Give the heat then. Take the credit for it, because this way, if it goes poorly, they'll remember that it's your hot take.
Perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. I would say, and I'm okay being wrong. I think we wouldn't do this otherwise. But he only had 6 carries last week. He had 2 targets. This backfield's kind of been in flux throughout the year. He returns after missing 3 games. Number one, are we convinced that Trevion Henderson is just the true bell cow now? Even if we are, right? And I tend to lean more towards like, yeah, Henderson probably gets more work than Stevenson for sure. They don't love using Henderson at the goal line. We saw that in the 3 games Stevenson missed. You had Dearness Johnson, okay? Dearness Johnson had a goal line carry in one of those games. That should tell you all you need to know, that Terrell Jennings and Dearness Johnson each had a goal line carry, and combined, Henderson had 2 across 3 games. Last week, Ramondre Stevenson had 2 goal line carries. So it appears to me that they are still willing, and it seems like eager, when they get in goal-to-go situations, to give Stevenson some shots, even if he is not the guy that's getting the ball as much in between the 20s. So I do think there is something to be said about Stevenson possibly just having touchdown equity today. I bet him at plus 230 to score. He's at plus 195 in some spots now. Doesn't mean all that much, but I will say that I wouldn't ignore his touchdown equity in who for all we know could be a low scoring game.
I fully agree. I mean, this has been a spot against the Giants where I've been, in content both for Stokastic and on my own channels, like really talking a lot about how we want to go against this Giants defense pretty much every week because of the fact they're giving up explosive plays left and right. There's a lot of underlying things that represent, how bad the Giants defense is. EPA, expected points added metric, I always talk about. One of the things I swear by in my process, 0.2 EPA per rush allowed by the Giants, worst mark in the league. 0.16 EPA per red zone rush allowed, actually 0.18 per red zone rush allowed, also one of the worst marks in the league. And even more than that, they give up a 24% avoided tackle rate. So they're missing a ton of tackles naturally. And for a guy like Trevion Henderson, that is a good thing because he doesn't miss a lot of tackles on his own overall. But Ramondre actually does miss some tackles. And like you mentioned, first game back in last week, he played 22 snaps. Trevion was at 46. It's possible that you get closer to like, 30 for Ramondre, 35 even. Like, it's not a guarantee or anything. I still think Henderson's the better play, and especially at his price tag, it's a little bit low. But I agree with you. Like, you can play them both together, I think would not be crazy. I think you might find explosive plays for Trevion, and also, Ramondre can benefit. It's one thing that people always, I think, miss, where they're like, oh, like Trevion, I love him. It's going to be such a great spot for him. But in reality, if you have another back that's in the same situation and getting a meaningful amount of touches, like they might hit too, whether it's with that guy or in lieu of that guy. So, if anybody out there is sleeping on Ramondre, you shouldn't, even though he's definitely not a fun click at this point.
No, he's not a fun click, but he's and the other thing too is that Trevion Henderson is 8K. So DraftKings did an interesting job with that because it's not like Henderson's 10K and Stevenson's 5K. Stevenson is 5K though, and I think at 5K I'm willing to do it. Now you made a great point. The Giants, they can't tackle in space. You just look at Jahmyr Gibbs. I know that neither of these guys are Jahmyr Gibbs, but like Jahmyr Gibbs had to have broken 10 total tackles on those 2 runs alone. Those 2 long touchdown runs the other week. They've struggled in that regard. Only the Bills have allowed more rushing touchdowns than the Giants this year. Almost 6 yards per attempt as well. This is a team that struggled. Now, I won't ignore the fact either that the Patriots are missing the left side of their offensive line, right? Their starting left tackle is out. Their starting left guard is out. Not great, but we always like the whole unstoppable force against an immovable object. This is, a stoppable force against the movable object. And one of them has to win out tonight. Somebody's got to win out. And I think it could be one of Stevenson or one of Trevion Henderson. And something else that fascinates me. I'm sure we would have gotten to it eventually, but I figure why not bring it up now while I'm rerunning the sim. Someone was kind enough to let me know that we had another update of projections. So I am rerunning this one more time for you fine people out there, and we will get going. Drake May has taken 37 sacks this year, dude. 37 sacks. I know the Giants are middle of the road in sacks, but if there's one thing, and Thibodeau's out today, but they do still have some guys. Like they have some guys that can generate real pressure on this defense. So again, do they look to run the ball more in a really favorable matchup? I think there's an argument to be made that, yeah, you know what? They might do that. Akirake, Burns, Dexter Lawrence, maybe Abdul Carter. They got some guys. And it's an interesting spot for sure for both of these backs. Now, I'd play both of them in the same lineup as well, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I have a good amount of Trevion Henderson. I also did get like about a third of my lineups here, which I'm still kind of seeing if I'm going to move it at all to Ramondre. And yeah, really, I think they make a lot of sense today. And certainly if you're not playing Trevion at captain, Ramondre making it in the flex in lieu of him or, with him, I think is definitely an appealing approach. But yeah, the Giants are that bad that anybody can really get off in the situation here. And, the fun click that people love to make is Henderson because they've been dying to see him hit since, really, preseason. People were drafting him top 35 at one point in best ball. He didn't really pay that off to start. And, frankly, I would argue he's not Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, I think it's really proven that he's not Jahmyr Gibbs, but Kyle Monungai looked great for the team. McCaffrey looked great for the team. Barkley looked great for the team. Everybody's played the Giants has looked great within the last month and a half.
Yeah. Yep. Everybody. Randy, congrats, man. Came in second in the early only single entry yesterday. Thanks for the help, guys. Good luck. You too, man. There was somebody else that mentioned that as well. That they had a nice win. I should have pulled you up earlier and I forgot. So my fault. But Vintage, member for 52 months. Great call on Tyrod Spags. Yeah, how about that? Nice little game from him. Adonai Mitchell. Finally. Hey, look, he learned how to all he needed to do was sit down in the end zone and he's going to start catching touchdowns.
He used every bit of his body. But yeah, I was really proud of that call because even on Friday's stream on my Splash Play channel, I do a single lineup sim to close out like my video. And I put in that lineup, Lofty. I know you love this too when you get it like really right in content. Tyrod with AD Mitchell, with Bijan, with Vidal.
There it is.
Like I got like the entire core right in that one. I still had Mechie in it, unfortunately. Mechie fucked that game up so bad for the Tyrod double, but yeah. It feels good to hit. Giants QBs or New York QBs 2 weeks in a row have hit a low ownership.
I know. Yeah, I ran a ton of like Tyrod, and by the way, Brandon, congrats, dude. A lot of Tyrod Hall Adonai, but also a lot of Tyrod Hall Mechie too. So yeah, with a lot of Bijan run backs, but it seemed like each one of those lineups just had somebody for me that did not do well. And I liked the Chargers passing game. Team scores 31 points, and it didn't really matter. Like nobody really had a game. But
yeah, the tough part of the Tyrod stack for me, I finished top 2 under the Millie Maker, which I like means nothing financially, but still feels good given that there's a billion people in that tournament. And it's like I had Puka Nacua in that lineup. Like I used the value to pay up for the guys that shit the bed. But if you would use the value to get to Puka or JSN, you were fucked. And that was how it worked out. So it's great stuff when you get the cheap stuff right, and then the stud receivers who never fail for you. Dude,
that sucked so bad because I went into the afternoon slate being like, all right, I'm in decent shape. It's not great, but like there's a chance. I had massive exposure to that late window, and it just was largely terrible, dude. I mean, awful. I don't know. Anyway, question from Goody, is the Patriots center out as well? I saw someone else say that. I didn't see that I didn't see that the center was out.
Yeah, that's outside of my brain power. I had told Eric he was right yesterday because he was like Jalen Ramsey's out, and I'm like, yeah, it sounds right. I don't know. If they're not a skill position guy, it leaves my brain immediately.
There are some like offensive lines to me, I care more about than defense in a lot of situations. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
But yeah, the left guard, left tackle, both. I mean, Will Campbell's is on the IR, but Jared Wilson's the left guard. He's out. Anyway, we reran the Sims here. Let's see what we got going now that we are back in business. All right, so Spags, here we go. Let's go. I'll run 2 uniques. Favorite 150 here. Check out our exposures. Go to Flex real quick. May, Dart, Henderson, Tracy, all up there. Bourgalis is up there. Wandale's up there. Most positively leveraged spot is going to be Dart at the flex position. There's a good enough Patriots defense. I don't think they're, world beaters by any stretch. Where am I at on my sweet Ramondre Stevenson? Oh, okay. Look at that. That's without me doing anything, Spags. 27% Ramondre. Has his prop come up? And feel free to talk while I look this up.
No, I have not kept a close eye on Ramondre, but I mean, sim wise, I've been getting above the field on him all day, and I'm pretty happy about that. He's at about 25.5. It looks like, depending on the books, some 27.5.
With 7.5 rushing attempts, Henderson is at 14.5. Tracy is at 12.5, and wow, 12.5 for Tracy. That's crazy. I might bet the over on that, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's an assumption that, again, this is me reading probably the thing that I want to read out.
Playing from behind?
Well, playing from behind, but also like, I don't know. Well, I was reading that more as like a little bit higher for Tracy as like a market line. Maybe not, but I feel like they're going to want to keep Dart clean. So give Tracy some handoffs just to not put Dart under the gun too much.
I mean, he's had 19 and 20 over his last 2 games.
Yeah, that's a difference,
right? Like Singletary's cleared that number in back to. I know it's only 2 games. I'm not using that as like gospel. What I am saying is it's interesting to see him at 12.5, and might have something to do with being 7.5 point dogs here. I don't know. Interesting spot, if nothing else. But yeah, when you look at these exposures to the flex position, does anybody stand out right now that you are surprised by when you see? I mean, Singletary's at 25%. We're getting, tell you what, man, this is a little surprising to me. And I'm not saying I hate it. We are getting a lot of the running backs in possibly what could be 2 committee approaches tonight.
Yeah, and I think that's always a little bit of a risk. I mean, we saw it pay off on the Friday showdown slate where you had both running backs make it from Chicago. It was one of those things where I think a lot of people, and Eric, to his credit, I think on the stream was like, play both running backs, and that ended up being a thing to pay off, and particularly focus on the none guy. But like if you hit just the contrarian outcome to whatever people expect, I think people were afraid to play one of the Chicago backs because it's been such a hot hand situation. Then they both hit. In this spot, I think it's the opposite, where like everybody's going to be playing at least one running back. If you were to hit in the pass game or, an onslaught that maybe includes 1 pass game, but doesn't go too running back heavy, that might be a way to do it. But my initial thought on the slate was like, if you play max 1 of Drake May or Travion Henderson, that'll be one of the big uniqueness levers. But it doesn't seem like you're getting crazy ownership on those guys combined. You're getting fairly reasonable, across the board.
Big Kev, here's a fun question from Big Kev. Because someone asked would I captain Ramondre, and I didn't answer you. I would consider Ramondre a captain. Not a lot, but I'd get to some. Singletary a captain with both New England running backs. Too crazy. I want to say yes. I'm not in love with that. We can look at captain. We have 5% Singletary at captain. So my yes there, Big Kev, is the wrong answer, and I'll eat it. Let's see. I mean, if I just go captain, Singletary, here's one with Henderson and Tracy. Here's one with Henderson and Tracy. We could just see, let's see, and the lineups. This is what's cool about the Sims here. we can isolate all of this. Lineups.
I love this feature too. One of the most important ones, I think, to try to find unique combos.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And not only that, like to see if what you're thinking actually makes sense. Like, you know what I'll do sometimes? Say I just want this build and I'm going to shoehorn it in. I'll literally just do that and find the lineups that they're sim positively. So even if they didn't make my 150 or whatever I'm playing, I'll just add them in. You know what I mean? And you're not really making any adjustments. It's still a positively simmed lineup.
Right. I think sometimes people are afraid to like do that stuff with the sim, but that's really one of the best usages of the sim is you notice player X is under-owned or you feel like they're under-owned. You go and grab that player captain or in a lineup and put that as part of your portfolio. You don't just have to take what the sim gives you when you select, first 150 or 150 with uniques or whatever. You can, hand select a few. And that's an important part of my process for sure.
Yeah. Here's one up top, 75% simmed. All right, not bad. Singletary, Slayton, May, Dart, Stevenson, Henderson. I don't mind that at all. Check this one out. Singletary, May, Stevenson, Diggs, Henderson, and Tracy. That's the quad running back lineup, Spags, with a 30% simmed ROI.
Yeah, and there's definitely a world where that could happen. Tracy maybe gets there early. They're playing from behind. Singletary gets in more because they trust him more in those third and distance kind of situations or high leverage spots. But it's not pretty for sure to play those lineups. But if you're playing 150, you definitely need to consider them a little bit more than if you're doing a 20 max, just trying to get one good entry in the Millie Maker.
Bo Grizzly, hey Bo, single lineup generator changed my life. Yeah, single lineup simulator. Yeah, I love that thing. He says, hell yeah, dude. It's an awesome tool. And if you missed out on the Black Friday sale, or even if you took advantage of the Black Friday sale, so hey, what about you take advantage of the week sale? And then I say, well, why don't you just add a couple free months on by using that link in the description, placing a bet on tonight's game, place a live bet. Doesn't matter what it is. Make a live pick'em lineup. Go on to Onyx sweepstakes book, 40 plus states. Place a bet there live after you get your lineups in while you're sweating them. Get 100 in bonus picks when you spend 10 and get a free month of the Sims. That link down there that says sign up with any of our sportsbook partners, get the Sims free. Yeah. Click claim offer. That's it. Right? That's the first step. Then just sign up using that claim now so we can track it. Deposit $5 or $10 minimum deposit on all of it. Right? And then place a bet or set a pick'em lineup. The moment that settles, or even the next morning, take a screenshot of your welcome email, your first settled bet, and email us, not the books. Email us at support@stokastic.com. Ron's awesome at handling these. I think a lot of you guys would agree he gets back very quickly. And just tell him, hey, Ron, I signed up with Onyx and Fanatics. Can I get a month of NBA and a month of NFL? And then send them all you need. That's it. That's it. And every one of these equals a free month of core Sims. Single lineup Sims, the Sims themselves, ownership, boom bust tool, top stacks, projections, ownership, you name it. There's not a single site out there where you can do this and continues to stack free months every single month and legit free roll the tools for up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months, 11 months. Now you're already on DraftKings and FanDuel, so let's say 9, but you get the point. It's a nice feature. And as Spags always says, why wouldn't you want to give yourself use tools that are going to make you a better player, that give you a competitive advantage? It really, at the end of the day, is that simple.
Yeah. I mean, playing against everybody who is using them and not using them is somewhat foolish inherently, but it really is like being one of the cavemen that was just like, yeah, fire, wheel. I don't know. Like you got to be a part of the evolutionary process here, and you got to understand what people are using against you more than anything. So, build good lineups, but also understand the field's playing and all of that. And real fast, could I just push back on one chat, which I just think is the worst kind of showdown?
Just put it up on the screen. There you go.
Basically, if you don't play Diggs, you should quit DFS.
Yeah.
So these are the takes I hate the most in a showdown because number one, a million different things could happen on a given slate. Like I'm sure a lot of us in chat think the Patriots are going to kick ass today. They could lose. Like that can happen. The Giants could win on a 5-1 build today. That can happen. But this one's particularly bad because Diggs' snap count was down so bad last week.
Like 48% last week.
Yeah, and Butte was up, and it was his first game back in. He played 50 plus. Matt Collins in that same range. Demario Douglas is out of it, but like the tight ends were playing more. I think this is like a really bad take, but this is the thing too, where like you got to be looking at everything. I feel like on just for these showdown slates in particular, and snap count should be the first thing you look at. And if a guy's snap count is down, Diggs can hit. He's the most targeted player on that team, but to assume Diggs is going to hit is like asinine to me. I played a ton of Matt Collins and Butte at captain just for that reason, because I think people will play Diggs and go like, oh, he's the best. But that's not a lot of snaps for a guy last week.
Look, the guy's range of outcomes is insane. His range of outcomes is like 20 yards or 140. Seriously.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at him this season, and again, this could be a Diggs game where he has 140, and you really hope you have him. There's no doubt about it. But to act like he's just a certainty, I mean, even JSN isn't a certainty.
Yeah, and like, well, it wasn't really a competitive game, but they were in there enough. They could have thrown to the JSN a little bit more, and they did not. Puka was in that game with the Panthers until the last minutes.
That was crazy, yeah. And no JC Horn in that game either.
Yeah. So anybody that also like sweats matchups, that's not really it. But yeah, it's really one of those things where Diggs is owned 30%. That's fair for him because you're absorbing some risk for a guy whose snap counts have been up and down. But like just really last week to see Butte come in and play almost 60 while Diggs is playing under 40. The field's going to play Diggs. Cool. But I think if anything, it's probably the week to be a little more suspicious of Diggs than usual.
Hey, he has 6 games with 5 or fewer targets this year. 3 games with 3 or fewer targets. It's weird. It's because Drake May and Josh McDaniel, whoever you want to say it is, they really don't play favorites in this offense in the passing game. If Kayshon Boutte's open downfield, he's getting the ball. 33% Spags of Boutte's targets this year are deep targets. So even though he's not targeted at a high clip, you look at target share and all that stuff, like the guy definitely gets opportunities downfield on a showdown slate. That's valuable. You have to consider it. Mac Hollins is out there for what? What was he out there? Like 86% of snaps last week. He's surely not as talented, and he's as Diggs, and he's a journeyman for that matter. But if you're going to be out there, yeah, these cheaper price points make them viable today.
Yeah, and Butte too, this is small sample size stuff for sure when you get into like splits on top of splits, but he's been putting up a lot of his touchdowns versus man defense. He is facing a man defense heavy Giants team today with a 38% man defense rate, which is one of the higher marks in the league. Again, that's not everything. And Diggs can hit, but I just think it's dumb to talk in absolutes for showdowns, and I just hate the puff our chest out. You got to play Diggs, or you're the dumbest man alive. And it's like, no, you're not. You're just the person playing the slate and doing something different. That's all it is.
Look, man, I went like heavily underweight on JSN one time this year in a showdown slate, and it didn't work out. It was against Houston. It did not work out. I told you guys I was doing it. It didn't work, but Diggs is not JSN. So yeah. What do you,
nope.
I want to ask you, what are you doing though? Well, can we talk about the pass catchers here for New England, where you have Boutte, you have Hollins, some Pop Douglas at times, maybe Williams makes, an appearance for a target or two. And then you have Hunter Henry, who like his role is kind of always in flux. They do run a decent amount of 12 personnel, but Hunter Henry, if you go look at red zone targets and like targets inside the 10 and end zone targets, Hunter Henry leads the team by a wide margin this year.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too where Henry, spiked majorly last time out for them in that game for Cincinnati, where people do love that matchup for tight ends. But yeah, it was a spot where Henry was out there a bunch because they did play so much 12 personnel. I mean, Henry played, I believe, just shy of 60 snaps, and I can get the exact number here in a minute. But he played 56 snaps, and then Hooper played 40 in that game. So another 2 guys you want to put ahead of the snap count pecking order ahead of Diggs, even if Diggs hits, like that's 4 guys that played more snaps in the pass catching core than Diggs last week. And Henry, I think the biggest concern for me is just that he did spike so huge last time out. That does tend to, lead to a little bit more of inflated ownership for a guy, the next week. But I think Henry, I agree. Like he's a good click. Like the biggest thing for showdowns to me, and stuff can go the other way, but I think people miss it a lot, is just you want to play the guys that are getting the most snaps fundamentally. Like Cortland Sutton on yesterday's slate, I put in 2 lineups and made sure to get Cortland Sutton in them because it's like he's been playing down, even though he's still out there a bunch. He's been playing a ton more than Troy Franklin. He ends up hitting. Like that's sort of, I think, what DFS is. When you try to thread the needle every time on guys that have to get there through efficiency, on less snaps. I don't know, like if the snaps ping pong this week, great. But if they're not there and it's just the same thing we saw last week, you don't want to play the guy getting 20 less snaps than other guys usually.
Yeah, I mean, the difference is like he's still the type of guy that could play limited snaps if we're talking about Diggs, and still get there just because the targets per route run is going to be better than other guys that are just like situational players or part-time players. He's still going to get his opportunities. But no, I think that is simpler in the sense that like Drake May is a good deep thrower, and I have a lot of respect for him on the deep ball. He's probably going to absorb some pressure tonight. I have very little doubt about that. But at the same time, I think he's going to get some deep shots off here. And if that happens to be the case, I want a piece of boot. I want a piece of booty.
Yeah, Laffy, get it, buddy.
Break me off a piece of that booty, son. What are you doing with Douglas though? Like if you had to talk about kind of the fringe players here, pricing soft on this slate. I will point that out. Like the price of these running backs is pretty soft, but what would you do with some of the cheaper Patriots options? And then Spags, in the most professional fashion that you can, because I know you are in fact a professional, make a seamless transition to some of these cheap options in the passing game for the New York Giants as well.
Yeah, so I think with Pop Douglas, the biggest thing that stands out, if I'm going to beat up on Diggs, I should beat up on Pop Douglas even more.
You get beat up on that booty too, huh?
I'd love to beat on the booty. The booty was on the field too much. The booty was away from me so often. I'm now going to focus on the other guys. But yeah, for Pop Douglas, he's hit a couple weeks ago. He hit unlimited snaps a couple weeks ago. We're kind of a smaller version or microcosm of the Diggs argument. But it is still Pop Douglas not playing a lot of snaps at 4K. I think you're still kind of paying for previous production. And it clearly seems like right now, relative to this offense, especially with them needing a little more blocking power out there, because of being short those offensive linemen, you're getting more 12 personnel. You're getting Mac Hollins out there, who's a good blocker and commands targets at, comparable rates to Pop Douglas anyway. So I think Pop, the big issue is like you have guys that they have a need to be out there as opposed to Pop Douglas, who seems like just as a luxury. And he can hit for sure, but relative to the ownership here, Fields got him at 8%, Sims giving me him at 6%. I just don't think he's a priority. For the other cheap guys on the Giants side, you have a bunch of guys that I feel like they're either going to be less appealing plays because of not having Jameis Winston. For me, Hodgins fits that criteria at 3,600. You're getting 20% field ownership for Hodgins. Stokastic giving you only 5%. So a pretty noteworthy stand against Hodgins. And the snap count was up for him a lot with Jameis out there. For Dart, I'm not sure we get the same thing. But really more than anything, I just expect Hodgins to be a little bit less productive. I don't think you want to play Wandale plus Hodgins plus Slayton or Theo Johnson with Dart. Maybe that'll hit because I'm saying we're not going to play it, but I think that seems like a narrow outcome that I don't believe will occur. So I'm low on Hodgins. Olszewski, not really there for me. Daniel Bellinger at 1,600. Not a guy who's playing enough to love for me. Actually, no, he played 50 snaps last week. My mind, it was lower. He played 51 snaps last week. Theo Johnson played 64. I didn't get Bellinger a lot, got only Bellinger in 2% of my lineups, but he might be more in play. He and Hooper both, if the teams go to 12 personnel, those guys will play more. So I think Hooper and Bellinger might be the least bad cheap receiver plays, even though neither very fun.
Yeah, the interesting thing here is that there's just not. All right, I got my lineups in. Good. Let me make sure. There we go. All right.
Teamwork makes the dream. Yeah, no, don't put all dupes in, please. Save yourself.
The thing here though is, Drake, May, and Dart are. I mean, May's very expensive, but Dart's 10K flat. Then you've got Wandale at 9K, but Tracy, who's getting a ton of work, is 76. Henderson is basically the same price as Tracy. Diggs is 88. Hunter Henry's not that. There's nobody. This is not a Christian McCaffrey slate where you've got Josh Allen and James Cook and all of these other guys. And that's not even the best example. You would have to take what teams right now would just be wildly expensive as a team. Okay, the Rams, Stafford, Kyron, Puka, and Devontae Adams going up against, I don't know, name another quality team with expensive players. So I think this slate just looks a lot different than some of these other ones for sure. Going up against Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Chase Brown. If that's a showdown slate, these guys are going to be priced through the roof. Whereas every running back's 8K or less, and every receiver is 9K or less, and only one quarterback is north of 10K. So you're going to want to leave some salary in some of these and all of that, but I'm not sure how much we need. And if we pull the Sims up here, just to get an idea, let me refavorite all of these lineups. Hold on. I'll go 2 uniques and favorite 150. Exposures to flex. All right, so here you go. I'm going to go cheap, Spags, and see. So we have nobody under 1,200. Oftentimes that's not the case on slates like this. It's 1% Gunnar Olszewski, 3% Bellinger, 4% Kyle Williams. Like the Giants defense is the one we're getting exposure to. That's the only one that we're getting any significant exposure to, and they're above 3K. Nobody under 3K we're getting exposure to. It's 10% Hodgins, 5% Demario Douglas, 15% Younghoe Koo, 25% Singletary. He's at 4,600. This is not a slate where you're dumpster diving like so many of these others at all.
No, I mean, honestly, the defenses seem to be the big cheap things that I would note. And I know that's a thing that we have this debate about a lot in these showdowns. And my rule of thumb is really whenever we are not getting a lot of the defenses coming up owned naturally, it's not a game environment where we're going, it's going to be a total slog. Like that's when you want to play defense a little bit more. As to see the Giants coming up, 25% exposure at 3,200. Drake May, we talked about, Laffy mentioned does take a good amount of sacks, takes technically more pressure plays than Jackson Dart does, which is kind of, odd given the fact the Patriots are actually a good team and the Giants are not. But Drake May, one of the things that I like the least about him as a QB, is like he makes a lot of boneheaded plays, like really just dumb shit fumbles and picks and things like the ball's not even going where it's supposed to. He throws to a spot a lot as opposed to like a receiver. And that's the kind of thing where against a team like the Giants, who does play man a lot, there's a lot of volatility in man where receivers can find their biggest ceiling days versus man defense, but also, you can get a few more takeaways versus a man defense as well. I think for the Giants D, like playing the volatility a little bit there, and Patriots D, 16% owned too. They're more expensive. You can play them. I like the defenses to get them out, but Giants at 3,200, the Sims like them a lot. And I think that's noteworthy.
Swoop says Giants almost always cover. They're 7-5 against the spread this year. Pretty good. So are the Patriots. Except the Patriots are 10-2 and the Giants are 2-10. So
I also like that you just gave the actual record, which is 7-5, and it's like almost always covers. So they covered one more than 500, which would just mean that they're probably due to not cover.
This is correct. But and that's the thing I think people, not you, Swoop, but a lot of people don't understand is like covering the spread is not really indicative of your win-loss record at all, right? Like it's just not, unless you're the Tennessee Titans, who just are an embarrassment and a disgrace. But the games they didn't cover, right? The Giants, the Niners, they lost by 10. Philly, they lost by 18. 12 to the Saints. That's a bad look. Chiefs, they got beat up. Washington in week 1. But no, look, there have been a lot of games where the Giants have been dogs in all but one game. They were probably favored against the Saints, right?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
No, they were 2.5 point dogs.
A lot of their big covering too did come. I mean, covering and upsetting, like the Eagles game comes to mind, did come in the glory days of Cam Scatterby, where he was like shifting the way this offense ran too. So even if you're holding that, they cover a lot, which I think we just kind of said they don't. I think that also might not be the case anymore.
Might not be. They've covered 3 straight, but 2 of them were with Winston. Who knows?
Yeah. That's the positive Jameis volatility there.
If I was betting this game, though, I would take the Giants at plus 7.5.
Yeah, I think the Drake May boneheaded moves thing, I think, would make me find that appealing. But I don't know, man. I have a lot of fear about Dart not showing up today. Like, I just don't think it's hard to change who you are as a player. Like, again, not to keep citing the same article, but they talked about like he was a linebacker in high school. It's part of why he likes to go up against linebackers and test his mettle a little bit. It's like it's going to take some rewiring of his brain here, and the team is like not supportive of him running stupidly. So it could be a bit of a swimming in your own head kind of thing.
Could be. This one's good. There's this guy, the Pillsbury. I think he thinks my name's pronounced Lowy, because that would make sense, right? The Pillsbury Low Boy.
Yeah, that would make more sense. I didn't even know he was talking about you. I just thought that he was talking about himself and calling himself the Pillsbury Doughboy. So
he must be talking about me.
Yeah,
but so. It doesn't work because that's not how you. If you did, that would be at the very least, moderately creative. But
you'd have to be much fatter to be called the Pillsbury Lowboy too.
I think that's fair. Yeah. Yeah, you're probably right. Anyway, he's going to take down 50K to first today with the help of the Sims. I will leave the winning lineup on 300K to first. That's nice of you, man. The Pillsbury Lowboy thanks you. Appreciate that. That's very kind. 68 slapjack. Everyone's forgetting about Mac Hollins. I talked about that. Talked about that a lot. He's going to be out there for most of the game. Last week, Spags pointed it out. Stefon Diggs' snap count was the lowest I think it's been since week 1, right? Since week 1 when he made like his Patriots debut. And Mac Hollins played 85 and 86% of snaps over the last 2 weeks. So you don't have to love him, but guess what? He's going to be out there. He's going to be out there. This fella whose name I won't bother to pronounce. What's the point of all this? How about your favorite wide receiver, running back, some stats? I'm pretty sure we've been giving stats out for the past 45 minutes. Typically on showdown slates, it's anybody that just is like rattling off every single player and telling you they're good is doing you a disservice. It's more about not even the favorite players oftentimes, and more about like which of these guys make the most sense given their ownership and given their price point. We talked a lot about Ramondre Stevenson. We talked about a lot of unique builds that you can mix into your lineups today, right? Whether it's double running back from the same team. We had the question from Big Kev earlier with the Singletary lineups. Lo and behold, there ended up being some really interesting captain Singletary lineups when we ran the Sims at 50,000. We are getting a lot of dart captains. Same with Drake May. Stefon Diggs is up there. Trevion Henderson, Tyrone Tracy, all of these guys. If you're saying like, who's your favorite player? It's for me, Spags, feel free to chime in if you see it differently because it's very possible that we might. If you say your favorite player is Drake May or Dart or Henderson, same with 50% of the field. To me, I'm more interested in what guys we can get a little bit overweight on or even underweight on. In your case, maybe Stefon Diggs that can make you a little bit unique on a slate like this.
Yeah, no, I think that's it. And I really think it's one of those things too, where again, people want to have the bluster and they want to go like Diggs lock button, like jam them in. And it's like, that really isn't the case. Even when I take contrarian takes on a slate, like last week with the Panthers and Niners stuff, and boy, that fucking ran bad for the Panthers last week. They had a lot of shots to turn that into a game that looked a little bit better for them. They didn't. But ultimately the chalk can still hit. You have to recognize that showdowns are all a game of variable outcomes. And it takes humility to do that, which I think is what you got to do this kind of content.
If there was one tight end you had to play today, is it Theo or is it Hunter?
I think just logistically with the exposures, it probably have to be Hunter Henry, though I might have gotten, let me go through my exposures. I did get Theo a little bit more than Hunter Henry, pretty close, but I think Hunter Henry is the best tight end play on the slate. I just personally, the guy just went nuts on the box score on an island game, kind of casual slate, which these Monday night, Thursday night football slates tend to be a little bit more. I'm willing to move away from that guy a little bit. So I have no issue with Hunter Henry, but I did play more Theo.
I kind of like Theo today. There's nothing that really stands out about him. And as you mentioned, it's Jackson Dart's first game back after clearing protocol. Who really knows what we're going to have here? But if nothing else, this guy has 13 red zone targets on the season. Nobody else has more than 7. This isn't just with like Winston or Wilson. You remember he had the 2 touchdown game with Jackson Dart not that long ago, both of which were end zone targets. So this has been a guy that Dart himself has been willing to target in these situations. He has almost a 30% target share in the red zone this year. For a showdown slate, him and Hunter Henry are 2 guys that have been really heavily involved there, right? 28.5% red zone target share this year for Theo Johnson, leads the team in goal line targets and inside the 10. And if you look at Hunter Henry, he has a 29.5. So essentially, and both have 13 red zone targets. They've been, at least in red zone situations, maybe not efficiency, maybe one offense is better than the other, and one is a 7.5 point favorite. They've been used very, very similarly inside the red zone this year.
Yeah, it jumps out. I mean, 1.1 red zone targets a game for both Hunter Henry and Theo Johnson. 0.5 inside the 10-yard line for Theo per game, 0.7 for Hunter Henry. Both marks are double any other receiver on the team. So they both have pretty good red zone roles, do Theo Johnson and Hunter Henry. And look, I think you make the case that like people will be cycling in. I did it myself. Like I cycled in, like I mentioned, some Captain Butte, some Captain Matt Collins, try to get unique there. But ultimately, like maybe the way to get unique is just to play Theo and Henry and fade these kind of. I mean, Wandale is going to come up a lot, and I do think that having his box score spike with Jameis Winston is not a coincidence because that Jackson Dart's treated Theo Johnson and Wandale pretty close to 1-to-1 in terms of target share. I think maybe playing Theo and Hunter Henry, they should get touchdowns, and the other receivers don't make it. Seems like a possibility.
Game Day Swami, what's up, brother? And what's up to all you guys who lurk in the background too? I know there's a lot of people out there that don't chat, but they're here all the time. I get those DMs all the time. They're like, yeah, I've been watching your show for 5 years and I've never commented once, but appreciate you. I'm like, all right, nice. But do we like the defenses tonight? Giants at 3,200, clear projection around them. There you go. See, Grizzor, FN, lurker here. Welcome, man. Thanks for showing your face, brother. But yeah, I think the Giants are okay. See, look, they got a lot of lurkers coming in. I love it. I love it.
All these dirty lurkers in their trench coats coming out.
They're among us. Yeah. But it's just like the crawling.
Does somebody call the lurkers? Sorry, lurkers.
No, I love it, man.
The lifeblood of the industry.
That's what I'm saying, though. These people make the show go just as anybody else would. You just never hear. I wish we would hear from them. I'm encouraging them. Crawl out of your holes, my friends. But the $3,200 Giants, yeah, Spags just said it too. They are like they can get pressure. Drake May doesn't turn the ball over a lot, but he's taken 37 sacks. Ramondre Stevenson is no stranger to coughing up the football. Like there are ways that this could happen, right? Like remember that Steelers game earlier this year? They had like 5 turnovers or something bizarre. So I mean, are you projecting them for 5 turnovers? Obviously not, but yeah, $3,200 is very cheap, even for a defense. So I have some Giants, and I don't really think I'll mess all that much with that. I don't know how much I want it captain Spags on a day like this, but I got 3%. Fine. If this game turns weird, fine.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, like I got 30% Patriots, 15% Giants. Wanted to make sure to get both. I thought I was going to get a little more Giants, but at this point, just kind of is what it is. I'm not going to massage it too much more. But I think there's a case to be made for both for sure. And again, I think this game, just the way that the lineups work, the way that they're coming together, what I've heard around the industry, just think we're going to get less defense play today because people seem to be thinking this is teetering on a shootout. The projections support that too, of how lineups are getting built kind of more evenly balanced.
Ethan King, always lurking, Avi. Don't make this weird. Listen, I'm telling you guys, I appreciate you. Long win, lurker here to say, how about them Texans, Laffy? Yeah, their defense is so good. Dude, I've been a believer in them before. I was the one saying, don't panic with Davis Mills. And I was shit on for that. Someone else said lurking and jerking.
That's what I'm thinking. It's guys in trench coats. They're coming out. They got their wispy mustaches, and they're like, "Hey, I'm done lurking. I'm ready to chat."
And the jerking is like in a feverish fashion too. It's not right. Like
it's like that. Do you watch? I think you should leave it all.
I first I could not get in Tim Robinson, right?
Yeah,
I could not get into him at first, but there are a few that are very, very funny. Like the haunted house one I cracked up at. There are a few that I thought were really, really good. Yeah, he's all right.
There's one where he talks about a guy's like red angry penis and like the idea of it like bursting, and that's sort of what you're jerking jerking so furiously that it looks like it might explode, but hopefully it doesn't.
I haven't seen that one. You'll have to send it to me. But anyway, we're about up against it. As always, you guys know how to get the Sims for free. You guys know where to reach us. Spags at Chris Spags on the X or at Splash Play Pod on YouTube. Me at Laffy. My DMs are open if you guys ever have any questions. Brian Hansen, see what I mean? Just reads the 2 comments in front of mine and then moves on. I assume this is not the one you wanted me to read. Dude, the chat is flying right now, Brian. Don't get salty over this, dude. You think this is intentional? I mean, if the one I read right in front of yours is lurking and jerking, then yeah, you have a right to be upset about that. But I just didn't see it, man.
He left some really earnest, like, oh, you're the best. Like, I love you. You're so great. I hope your wife and children are doing fantastic. And you're like, lurking and jerking. Click this.
Brian, we lurk because we tried to talk in the past. Nobody, come on, don't do that, man.
Oh, boy, that's Jesus.
I literally tried it. I hit on so many comments throughout the show. Come on, there are a lot of things to criticize us about, but getting chat involved in here, you know what? I find that unfair.
I would just want to give Brian a hug. It seems like he's getting close to getting radicalized against us, and I didn't know he was just lurking. So just, you know, when in doubt, somebody cares. I care. I care enough. I don't want you to be mad.
No, we love everybody. I will remember you, Brian Hansen, and next time you leave a message, I will hit you up.
Especially if it says lurking and jerking, then it's gonna guaranteed get pulled up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you say you're over there lurking and jerking, then I mean we have no choice but to acknowledge it. Sometimes the wildest comments get the love, or at least the attention. Anyway, Spags, this is always fun, man. Always fun with you guys as well.
Oh, right back at you. I thought you were just gonna quit.
No, it's giving you a chance here, man.
Oh, no, this is a fun time here. Look, ultimately, guys, we're all in this together in the name of gambling. Glad to see the lurkers feeling empowered to come out of their holes or whatever, their hobbit holes. But you know, it's hopefully a fun game. I think this might be a fun one. I do kind of want to see a Jackson Dart implosion because I feel like I could visualize him imploding. Even though I like Jackson Dart.
I could too. Mr. Lear Hat. Laffy, Spags, King of End Zone. Do you know how that works? I'm going to have you give one. If you don't know how the King of End Zone works, I'm going to tell you.
You mentioned it before. It's like first touchdown scorer.
Yeah, so there's $2 million prize pool. We'll call it a prize pool, right? Jackpot, they call it. Oh, wait, no. King of the End Zone's on DraftKings. I was thinking of the FanDuel one. Is King of the End Zone longest touchdown? I think it's longest touchdown. Yeah. I'd go Keyshawn Booty, but I don't think that'll be all that. I don't think that's going to be all that crazy.
Yeah, Butte or Travion would be my first picks, but that's probably pretty chalky. Ramondre? Does Ramondre rumbling and stumbling down the field? That's a possibility.
Fuck it, man. Is Jalen Hyatt inactive?
He should be.
He really should. You mean Jalen Hyatt? Stevenson could actually do it for sure. Stevenson could do it.
Drake May could.
That's an interesting one. Yeah. You know what? You could do Kyle Williams if he gets one target. Because with King of the End Zone, you're only placing like a $5 bet anyway. You know what I mean? So if I play that, I always play it like a tournament. I go in with the expectation I'm going to lose. And if I hit, I'm not chopping with nearly as many people. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're like, oh, I'm going Stefan Diggs. Okay, good. So is everybody else. So everybody gets $30 when it hits. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, definitely go Butte over Diggs. I like Butte. I feel like he might be low enough owned where there's still EV on it. Travion, I would think that you're probably giving up a lot of EV because people just think he's going to break one like Gibbs did.
All right, man. Good luck tonight, guys. Love you all. And remember, as we always say, stay lurking and bags.
Yeah, stay lurking and jerking, fellas.
There it is. And stay jerking. We'll see you guys later.